Welcome to the deep dive. We dig through the sources, the forums, the interviews, to really get to the heart of the story.
And today, it's quite a story. We're looking at the life and, sadly, the recent passing of Carl Mueller Jr.
Yeah, a truly foundational figure for anyone interested in Intellivision homebrew or emulation. We've got forum posts, some interviews, info pages.
A whole collection.
Yeah.
And our goal really is to piece together the story of this programmer, his curiosity, his talent. It genuinely shaped that whole retro gaming world.
It really did. We'll explore his early work, those amazing games he created, and, well, the gap he leaves behind.
It's a fantastic example of how one person's passion can, keep history alive and even push it forward.
So we're going to start with how the very first Intellivision emulator even came to be. It's kind of surprising. Then we'll get into the games, the ones that just made people rethink what the Intellivision could do.
Right. Defying expectations.
And finally, reflect on how that one person's drive can keep something beloved, not just remembered, but vibrant. Okay, let's dive in. So Carl Mueller Jr., his Intellivision story starts way back, like 1980, 81. He was just a kid, hooked on games like baseball.
Right, but the programming bug bit him even earlier. His dad had a TRS-80 model back in '79.
Oh, wow, a trash 80. Classic.
Yeah, and Carl just taught himself BASIC on it. That early experience, on a pretty simple machine,
Yeah.
definitely set the stage.
No kidding. So fast forward to 1994. He decides, basically on a whim or maybe just curiosity, to create the first Intellivision emulator.
Exactly. And it wasn't like there was this huge demand. He just noticed nobody else seemed to be trying it. And this is on like a 386, 33 millihertz computer. Not exactly a powerhouse by today's standard.
Not at all. And the challenges were huge, right? Getting technical info was apparently a nightmare.
Oh, massively difficult. Trying to figure out how the hardware worked without proper documentation. He needed CPU data sheets, specifically.
How did he even get those?
He ended up having to coordinate with someone in Australia who had an old Osborne computer book. This person literally photocopied pages and mailed them to Carl in Michigan.
That's incredible dedication. Just to get started.
And then he had to build his own tools. An assembler, a disassembler. Basically, the software needed to write and understand the Intellivision's machine code.
And he did all this before he even had any Intellivision game code, any ROMs to test it with.
Yep. Building the tools in the blind, essentially. It shows that deep drive, wanting to understand it from the absolute ground up.
So how did he get the first ROMs? That must have been the key.
It was. He connected with Sean Kelly, famous for the Vectrex multicarts, through Usenet. Remember Usenet?
Vaguely. Pre-web forums, basically.
Right. Sean sent him 2 prototype ROMs, Popeye, and, crucially, trucking.
Why was trucking so important?
Because trucking, for whatever reason, didn't rely heavily on the Intellivision's built-in operating system, the EXEC routines. It sort of did its own thing.
Oh, okay, so it was easier to emulate initially.
Exactly. By bypassing a lot of the complex EXEC stuff, Carl got trucking actually running on his emulator in just 2 weeks.
2 weeks after all that groundwork.
Yeah. He said seeing those first graphics and animations pop up was just, incredibly exciting. The first real sign it was working.
I bet. And that must have kick-started things.
It did, once he shared that he had trucking running. William Mueller, no relation, I believe, and Scott Nuds got involved.
What did they do?
They built a cartridge dumper, a physical device to read the ROM data off actual Intellivision cartridges.
Ah, so they could finally start getting more games into the emulators.
Precisely. It allowed them to build the library. And this all happened pretty quickly. By 1995, Carl's emulator was basically complete.
And that's when it went more public.
Yeah, Keith Robinson and the Blue Sky Rangers, the original Intellivision programmers, had just launched their website. They found out about Carl's emulator.
And they included it on the official Intellivision Lives CD.
They did, which was huge. It brought Intellivision emulation to a much wider audience on PCs.
Wow, what a journey just to get that first emulator out there.
Absolutely. And, it's fair to mention others were working on related things around the late 90s, too. Frank Palazzolo, Joe Zbisiak with JZ and TV, and the S1600 assembler.
Right, it became more of a community effort later on.
But Carl was definitely the pioneer, the one who kicked the door open.
Yeah.
A real collective spirit started building from there.
Okay, so he builds the foundation with the emulator, but then he shifts focus to actually making games for it, or rather remaking them. Let's talk DK Arcade.
Ah, yes. This is maybe his most famous work. And the motivation. It goes back to his childhood again.
He wasn't happy with the original Intellivision Donkey Kong by Coleco.
Not really. I mean, he was excited to get it back then, obviously, but playing it, He just found it. And I think his words were pretty bland.
Bland how?
Only 2 levels compared to the arcade's 4. And he really disliked the artwork. He famously called the Mario sprite a porky pig.
Huh, okay. So he thought he could do better.
He did. He looked at Coleco's development process, programmers who were maybe inexperienced with the Intellivision, rushed schedules like 3-4 months per game.
Not much time to really push the hardware.
Exactly. There wasn't really the incentive or maybe the time. So Carl set himself this personal challenge. Could the Intellivision actually deliver a true arcade-quality Donkey Kong? 4 levels, better graphics, the whole deal.
Which most people probably thought was impossible on that hardware.
Pretty much. And the technical hurdles were significant. Getting those slanted girders and ladders right on the Intellivision's grid-based graphics system.
Yeah, that sounds tricky.
He literally had to calculate pixel positions by hand. Pen and paper stuff.
Wow.
And then there was the issue of color. The Intellivision EXEC, the built-in system, made multicolored sprites like Mario a real headache.
How so?
Basically, each color often needed its own separate sprite or moving object. Trying to keep those perfectly synchronized, moving together smoothly without flickering.
Yeah.
It was tough with the standard tools.
So what did he do? This is where he went off script, right?
Completely. He decided to just bypass the EXEC entirely. He wrote his own low-level routines, basically his own super optimized mini operating system for the game.
Giving him direct hardware control.
Total control. That's how he achieved that incredibly smooth motion and those flicker-free graphics that people still marvel at. But it meant building everything from the ground up for that game. A huge undertaking.
Okay, but even with this breakthrough, the game didn't come out right away.
No, strangely enough. It was mostly finished by around 2003. But Carl hit some snags, some slowdown issues he wasn't happy with, and just got frustrated.
So he shelved it.
For 7 years. It actually existed in this sort of legendary, downloadable but flawed state for all that time. People knew about it. Some had played early versions, but it wasn't done.
7 years. What brought it back?
Persistence, mostly. William Mueller kept encouraging him to finish it. And then David Harley stepped up and offered to actually pay for the final work and publish it through his company, Intellivision.
Ah, so that provided the final push.
Seems like it. And the final version, when it finally came out,
Right.
it was packed with innovations.
Like what? Beyond the smooth graphics.
The digital sound samples. This was mind-blowing. You had DK's growls, Pauline's HELP. Sound that people had never heard from an Intellivision before.
And this wasn't using the IntelliVoice module, the speech synth.
Nope. This is pure programming wizardry. He figured out he could rapidly change the volume registers in the sound chip, basically forcing it to output crude digital audio. It used, like, all the CPU power for a split second to make the sound.
That's brilliant. And where did the sounds come from?
Get this. They were hidden, unused, within the original arcade Donkey Kong ROM data. Carl found them digging through the code.
Unbelievable. What else was new?
Multiple playable characters, which was really cool. You had Mario, obviously, but also Tony, who was faster and could jump while holding the hammer.
Oh, neat.
And Bruno, who was slower but could climb ladders while holding the hammer, added a lot of replay value.
Different strategies for each.
Right. Plus, you could choose the Japanese level order versus the US one. The Japanese order actually tells more of a complete story, apparently.
Huh. Didn't know that.
And one final touch, a 30 frames per second option. This helped reduce flicker, especially on modern LCD PVs, which handle the Intellivision's native output differently than old CRTs.
Just an incredible amount of polish and features. No wonder it was so well received.
Absolutely. And that success naturally led to thinking about more.
Right, the sequel or sequels. D2K Arcade and the Special Edition.
Exactly. William Mueller was keen to form his own publishing company, Electronite, and another DK game seemed like a great starting point.
But where did the new levels come from? Did Carl design them?
Not initially. Carl actually stumbled upon a YouTube video showcasing a fan-made modification, a ROM hack, of the original arcade game. It was called D2K Jumpman Returns, created by Jeff Kaziki.
A ROM hack, so someone had altered the arcade code itself.
Yeah, Kaziki had designed new levels using the existing arcade graphics and mechanics, but in clever new ways. Carl saw this and was really impressed.
He liked the new level designs.
He thought they felt fresh, but still true to the original. So he reached out, got permission, and then programmed his own Intellivision versions inspired by Jeff's designs. A real collaboration in a way.
So D2K Arcade added these new levels.
It added 5 new boards, twisted girders, the mixer, the refinery, triple elevators, the eliminator, Some of them are notoriously difficult.
Yeah, well, I bet. Like the refinery.
Refinery and triple elevators are often cited as just brutal. Then later, the D2Key Special Edition added 2 more boards, the Foundry and the Incinerator.
Wow, so how many screens total?
The Special Edition ended up offering 2 main game variations, Carl's D2K, based on Jeff's work, and a version closer to Jeff's original Jumpman Returns ROM hack. Between them, you got a total of 10 different screens. Massive amount of content.
That's incredible for the Intellivision. Did Carl himself master these tougher levels?
He actually admitted he was only an average player at his own games, which is kind of funny, but also speaks to the challenge he built into them.
He wasn't just doing Donkey Kong stuff, though. He tackled other arcade classics, too, right?
Well, yeah. Around 2014, 2015, he released his version of Mrs. Pac-Man, again published through Intellivision.
How was that one? As good as D-Tay?
By all accounts, incredibly good. Yeah. Really faithful to the arcade. It had 3 playable characters again.
Like different pack people?
Yeah, variations. And 4 different maze themes. All 3 of the intermissions from the arcade game.
The little cutscenes?
Exactly. And a whole screen full of options to customize the gameplay. Just packed with features.
He really went all out on these ports.
He did. And with Mrs. Pac-Man, he also showed incredible generosity. In 2016, he just released the ROM file and the complete source code for free online.
The source code, wow.
Yeah, he just asked for donations if people felt like it.
Yeah.
Giving back to the community that way was amazing.
That really is something. But there's another layer to this period of his work, isn't there? Something about how he was creating these games.
There is. And it's truly remarkable and kind of heartbreaking.
Wow.
He created the entire Mr. Pac-Man port and his later NES emulator project 100% using voice recognition software.
Wait, he coded by talking to his computer?
Exactly. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to.
Why? What happened?
He had developed a really severe repetitive strain injury, an overuse injury in his hands. It started when he was just 17 and got progressively worse over the years.
Oh, man.
Eventually reached the point where typing using a mouse, it was just too painful. Coding by voice was the only way he could continue his passion.
I can't even imagine the difficulty. How did he make that work? Programming requires such precise syntax.
It took incredible adaptation. He used Dragon Naturally Speaking software, an older version 11, I think, but he heavily customized it. He wrote custom Python scripts, macros to control the keyboard commands, and built up a specialized vocabulary for coding terms.
So he essentially had to teach the software his programming language and workflow.
Precisely. The sheer willpower and ingenuity to not just learn that system, but become proficient enough to write complex assembly code for the Intellivision or an NES emulator. It's just staggering.
Truly inspiring. Did he talk much about other projects he was working on or thinking about?
He did. He was always tinkering. He actually made a Game Boy Color emulator that could run Intellivision software.
An Intellivision emulator on a Game Boy Color?
Yeah, a proof of concept. He showed it to Intellivision Productions, but I guess it never went anywhere commercially. Still, amazing technical feat.
Definitely. What else?
He worked on an emulator called i4NES Intellivision for NES.
Running Intellivision games on Nintendo hardware.
That was the idea. He imagined maybe Intellivision minicades, like little arcade cabinets powered by NES hardware, or even releasing Intellivision games on new NES cartridges.
That's wild.
And he had this concept he called Intellivision 3. The i4NES could actually display Intellivision graphics at double the resolution, using the NES's superior sprite capabilities for multiple colors.
So like enhanced versions of Intellivision classics.
Pretty much. Graphically boosted versions. Imagine Astra Smash or B-17 Bomber with NES-level color and detail. It was a fascinating idea.
Wow. Anything else in the works?
He was always trying to improve the core Intellivision performance, working on something he called a Super EXEC, a replacement for the original operating system routines, to make games run even better.
Always pushing the limits.
Yeah, and his focus tended to be on filling the gaps, porting those arcade games that the Intellivision never got officially, or got poor versions of. It was always that curiosity. What could this machine really do?
Did he ever consider making a completely original game, not a port?
He mentioned he was open to it, yeah. Down the line, perhaps. It's sad we'll never see what that might have been.
Yeah. Which brings us back, unfortunately, to the recent news.
Right. Carl Mueller Jr. passed away on July 6, 2025. He was only 52.
Just far too young. It's really shocking.
It is. The news hit the Intellivision community around August 5th, mostly through posts on the Atariage forums. Just widespread shock and sadness.
And there was that story from just before people knew he had passed, right?
Yeah.
About a transaction.
Yeah, it really speaks volumes about his reputation. A user Mystery Dump posted saying they'd paid for the D2K Special Edition ROM weeks earlier, but hadn't received it, expressing some concern.
Understandable, but awkward timing.
Very. But the community's reaction was immediate. People jumped in saying things like, Carl is first class, there's no way Carl's scamming people. They were suggesting maybe he was on vacation or having tech issues.
They instinctively defended his character, having no idea what had actually happened.
Exactly. And then, when the news broke, another user, Kamikaze26, just immediately offered to cover the cost for anyone who had paid but not received the file. Just a really compassionate gesture, showing the deep respect people had for Carl.
That's incredible. The tributes must have been pouring in.
Oh, absolutely. Just universally positive. People calling him a good guy, a gift to the community, a phenomenal programmer.
Any specific ones that stood out?
DCJ, who's very well known in the scene, wrote a really poignant tribute called Carl, one of the most talented programmers and prolific contributors, talked about his uncanny command of the hardware and software. He called him a programmer, hardware hacker, and master wizard of the Intellivision.
Master wizard. That feels fitting.
It really does. And importantly, William Mueller announced that his company, Electronite, would take over selling the DK Arcade, D2K, and D2K SE ROMs.
So Carl's major works will remain available, which is great news.
Yeah, ensuring that legacy continues. And another user, Tarzilla, put it very bluntly. The homebrew community owes it all to him. Everyone is just building on his foundation.
A founding father, really. His work didn't just preserve the Intellivision, it gave it a whole second life decades later.
Absolutely fundamental. And some personal anecdotes surfaced, too. Arnaud Chevalier, another developer, shared his regret about missing a chance to meet Carl when they were both in Japan back in 2005.
Oof. Yeah, those missed connections feel heavy later on.
Definitely. And another cool story, Carl was apparently one of the very first people to discover and document Easter eggs hidden in the original Intellivision games.
Like the secret meteor game in Astro Smash.
Exactly. He found stuff like that by meticulously disassembling the code, figuring it out himself. He shared his findings, and initially, some people didn't even believe him.
Yeah. He was literally seeing things no one else had seen in the code. A true pioneer.
In every sense. From the first emulator, starking that whole scene, to games that redefine the hardware's limits, all while overcoming immense personal challenges with just incredible determination. It's an amazing legacy.
It really is. His work wasn't just about looking back at history, it actively shaped the present and future of Intellivision fandom. He inspired so many people.
For sure. So when you think about what his legacy means, not just for retro gaming, but maybe more broadly.
It makes you think about these communities, right? Especially niche ones like retro gaming. They become the keepers of the flame, in a way.
Carl doesn't fade away, even after they're gone. It's the community that carries the legacy forward.
Which leads to a final thought, maybe. How many other unsung heroes are out there, in all sorts of fields, quietly building foundations, creating amazing things that maybe only a small group appreciates now?
Whose full impact we might only really understand years down the road? It's a compelling question.